Well, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here to talk about enjoying our kids. Um, Quick, funny story that just happened like last week. Um, my parents live locally and they help out a lot with our kids and they babysit a lot, which is super helpful, especially in this stage when there's lots of doctor's appointments. So I had asked my parents if they could babysit in the morning for a couple of hours while I had a doctor's appointment. And then my mom told me about a conversation that she had with my dad. And she said, hey, I know Suzanne needs us to babysit in the morning. I thought I would offer for us to keep the kids for the whole day and give her like an afternoon off to get stuff done or rest or whatever. And my dad said, well, I don't think we need to do that because I think Suzanne really enjoys being with her kids. And I was like, oh, that's really sweet. And I'm glad that it's evident that I like to be with my kids and that I enjoy being with my kids. But also, if you enjoy being with your kids, sometimes it's nice to have an afternoon to get stuff done. So, and my mom is a mom, so she gets that too, obviously. But I do enjoy being with my kids, and I am very thankful that I get to be at home with my kids as a stay-at-home mom, that I get to homeschool them. I'm thankful that we have all of that time together at home. So we have a long list of practical ways that we can enjoy our kids more, but before we get to that, I wanted to start with one point to remember that children are blessings from God. And I think this is an important point to start with and to remember even just day to day and minute by minute through our days. Psalm 127, verses 3 through 5 says, behold, children are a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of a womb a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior are the children of one's youth. Blessed is the man who fills his quiver with them. He shall not be put to shame when he speaks with his enemies at the gates. So children are a blessing. This verse says that they are a heritage, which is a gift or an inheritance, that they're a reward. And who is the reward from? It's from God, the one holy God who is set apart and perfect and the creator of all things, including the creator of the design of our families. It says the one with children is blessed. He's not put to shame. Those are good things. His children are compared to arrows. So if you're a warrior and you have a quiver, do you want more arrows or less arrows? You want more. That's a good thing, right? And I hope that we can all attest to the blessings that come as a result of our children. While, yes, parenting and being a mom is hard, and it's tiring, and raising kids is hard, it also brings much joy and satisfaction and fulfillment. And these are things that we wouldn't get to experience otherwise without having our kids. So these are great blessings given to us on purpose by our holy and our loving God through our children. Not to mention, more practically, we're going to be old someday and our kids are going to need to take care of us. And so what a cool way that God has designed that structure of the family with some security and help through our children, right? So there's great blessings through having kids. This may seem quite different than what the world can say about having children. I see things about children are a burden. Children are too expensive. They're too much work. It's too hard. If I have children, I can't travel anymore or do the things that I really want to do, or my career is way more important than having a kid, right? So these are the other things that we may see people say about kids, that they're too hard or too inconvenient. But we need to remember that children are good, God-given blessings, and that God's design is good. And God has given you your children specifically and intentionally, and has given your children you as their mom specifically and intentionally. So with that reminder, I have just a long list of things and a long list of kind of practical ways that we can enjoy our children more. Some of them are small, easy, quick to-dos. Some of them are sort of bigger, heavier kind of heart issues. And what I found as I was making this list is a lot of them had more to do with me and my heart towards my children rather than just changing their outward behavior. Big shocker there. So we'll just go through this list, and hopefully some of them are helpful. Some may work for me and not for you, or vice versa, whatever it is. So the first thing that I have for enjoying your children is to put your phone down. This is a hard one, and I know we're all on our phones a lot, and I use my phone a ton. And for very good things, I have my to-do list and my shopping list and my calendar and homeschool curriculum and music and like all of these great things on my phone, right? But I also know that I have social media apps and shopping sites and other apps or games that I can just find myself spending a lot of time on. And I can waste so much time on my phone, and I know that my kids see that. So I think that we all need to be mindful of how much time we spend on our phones. I try to, during my homeschool time in the mornings, I try to keep my phone in the other room so that I'm not just tempted to sit there on it while my 6-year-old's finishing her math page or something like that, and I'm more engaged with the kids and what they're doing. I also have limits set for social media sites of how many minutes per day I can use it. Those are a couple of things that I try to do to limit my phone usage during the day. Maybe try not using it until after the kids go to bed, or spend 15 minutes during their nap time or something where you can catch up on what you need to do on your phone. And I get it, there are lots of things that we need our phones for, right? But there are studies that show that our phone usage is affecting our kids' emotional intelligence and development, and even with our very young children and our babies. And how can we be enjoying our kids and having meaningful moments and meaningful times with them when we're on our phones all day long? So this is one, hits me hard, believe me, but to enjoy our kids more, sometimes we need to do things like put our phones down for a period of time and watch our phone usage. The second one is to put the to-do list away. Not forever, not for good, talking maybe like 20 minutes, okay? So for a time during the day, we all have so many things on our minds that we want to get done throughout the day, I know. But at times, we can put down our agenda and our need to get things done and spend time playing or reading or singing with our kids. Some of my favorite moments with our kids are sitting on the couch reading together. And if I always said, no, I need to do the dishes, I need to do this, I need to do that, and never sat down and read with my kids, I would never have those sweet moments together reading with them. Or turning on a song and singing with our kids, or playing with them. Singing songs and just being silly and doing silly voices. Reading and singing with your kids doesn't take any setup, it doesn't take any materials, it doesn't make a mess, so it's something that's easy to do, and it can really be something that the kids enjoy and that you enjoy with your kids. I make a point to only introduce music to my kids that I like or that I don't mind listening to over and over and over. So, pro tip, don't play anything that you're not going to want to hear again. My kids really like Mary Poppins right now, so we listen to Mary Poppins a lot, which I think is fun, and we all do our best Julie Andrews' voice, which obviously sounds exactly like hers. But they just love singing with mom and enjoying and acting it out and having some fun moments together. So if we can take 20 minutes and say, I can do those dishes later, I can put that load of laundry in later, let me just spend some time hanging out and enjoying or reading or singing with my kids, I think that is a fun thing to do, and it usually ends up bringing joy to me, even if I'm just trying to do it for them, right? So that is a way that I can enjoy my kids. Then number 3, along the same lines, as we're doing this, you can redeem the time. You can use these fun times to also be teaching them. You can be teaching them Bible verses through the songs that you're singing. You can practice doing chores. I mentioned Mary Poppins, so we could turn on just a spoonful of sugar while I tell the kids to clean up all their toys in the living room and put them away, and then we're doing it together, and we're dancing around, and we're singing, and we're trying to snap like Jane and Michael Banks as they're trying to, put their toys magically away, and we wish we could do that, but we actually have to pick up the toys and put them away. And that could be just a way to be a little silly, kind of let loose a little bit, while also doing something productive and getting them to do a chore or practice doing a chore. We could turn on the Compass kids ministry music. That is so much fun and has such good quality songs about God's truth and that are straight Bible verses, and then they have fun dance moves, thanks to Tracy. We can do those together, and maybe mom jumps in and does a couple songs and does the dance moves a couple of times. So while they think that mom is just kind of having fun with them and they're enjoying a fun moment of connection, you're teaching them God's word. They're learning about these big truths. Maybe you're getting a workout in because you're doing all the dance moves. It's one of my favorite postpartum activities is to try to keep up with Tracy on the videos when that's my 15 minutes of exercise is doing the Compass Tustin Kids Min music and doing all the dances because, some of them are hard. So that can be a fun way to not only be having that fun time with your kids and enjoying that moment of connection and singing and playing, but also you're redeeming the time because you're making it something where they're learning and they're learning something good. Number 4, excuse me, is don't compare. And this means don't compare yourself to other moms. And don't compare your kids to other kids. You've probably heard the phrase, comparison is the thief of joy. So if we are comparing too much, then we are not being joyful. If we are constantly looking at other moms or other families and thinking that they are better, or pitying ourselves that we're not more productive or more put together, or, my kid's not reading Lord of the Rings at age 4 and this kid online is, right? Then how is our mindset going to be with our children all day long? Related to this, obviously, is social media. And if you can tell that the more you're on social media, the less satisfied you are and the less you're enjoying your day and your kids, then a change needs to be made. I follow a lot of homeschool moms on Instagram, and I get so many helpful things, right? I get ideas, I get curriculum reviews, I get so many good things. But there are some that just have their beautiful, decorated tablescape, and it's all neutral colors, and then their perfect children are in their neutral colors that match the beautiful table, and they're sitting down doing their beautiful schoolwork. And if I were to compare myself to them, my homeschool days do not look like that at all. In fact, I would be embarrassed to take a picture and put it online. Maybe I should, but it does not look like that. So if I were to compare myself with that, then I would probably lose a lot of joy out of my day thinking, oh, my table doesn't look this pretty, or my kids aren't doing as much as they are. Maybe they are. Or my kids aren't all put together like they are. Maybe they're not. That may not be real life. This is one lady I follow, or I don't follow because she's ridiculous. I'm hoping that she's satirically doing this. I think she is, right? Okay, good. But she sits down in her beautiful dress and teaches her kids, and this beautiful homeschool scene. And then the one on the right, she's beautifully with that silly princess smile, and she's making homemade Fruit Loops for her kids. No, I don't make homemade Fruit Loops for my kids. So if I were to compare myself with her, then that would be silly, right? This isn't real life. Most of what we see online is not real life, but it can really rob you of joy in your day-to-day activities and the things that you're doing if you're comparing yourself to these standards. And imagine if we're comparing our kids to these standards, how unfair to them. These aren't even real standards to begin with, and they don't know that they're trying to meet these standards. So I think to keep joy, we need to be mindful of who we are comparing ourselves to and stop doing that in an unhealthy way to have more joy with our kids. So the next one is to strive for order in your day. Kids thrive on routine, and it is helpful for them to have a schedule. Some of your days might be naturally kind of scheduled out if you have drop off and pick up of bigger kids and you have weekly activities planned out. And so maybe your days through the week are pretty well scheduled. I am home all day with my kids, and we don't have a lot of scheduled stuff, especially in the mornings. We're usually just home every day in the mornings, right? So it's helpful for us to have a schedule through each morning so that the kids know what to expect. If you don't have something like this, you can literally make a schedule and print it out and put it on the wall and then start to implement it. And it will take time and training. Can't just be okay, 2-year-old, adhere to the schedule, right? It's not going to work that fast. But it can be helpful as you get used to it. And you can build into your schedule things like the kids' chores, or things like your chores, or things like independent play for 30 minutes before dinner. And so as you get into that schedule, then your kids will be used to the fact that while mom's making dinner, I'm doing independent play, right next to the kitchen, so that she has some somewhat peace and quiet to make dinner. And as that becomes part of their daily routine, they know to expect it, and it can be helpful for them. This is kind of our general schedule a little bit. Our kids come out of their rooms at 7 a.m., they eat their breakfast, they know that they have specific morning chores that they have to do. If they finish it early, they have some playtime. Then we start our homeschool time, which is like 2.5 hours. We get a snack halfway in between to appease the 2-year-old because she's always hungry. Then we break. They can play for a little bit. I make lunch. Then after lunch, the youngest goes to nap. The older two, we have time together to read on the couch. Then they go to their naps. And every morning sort of looks the same, so they know what to expect. And I think that this, while it doesn't happen perfectly, right, and it doesn't happen overnight that this happens, but I think that a routine is helpful and can minimize some of the craziness and some of the disobedience that can happen, which in turn makes for more enjoyable days for mom, right? So like I said, it takes time, it takes work to implement something like this, but I think that having structure in a day can be very helpful and can lead to more enjoyable days. I experienced this. Maybe many of you have experienced or seen that when school-age kids are home for summer break or winter break, and then leading up to going back to school, everybody's like, get my kids back in school, wow, things are crazy, right? I thought that this was never gonna happen to me because I'm a homeschool mom, right? But I realized that it does happen, and it really surprised me. So we take breaks from our normal homeschool schedule for the holidays, right? So maybe for 3 weeks around Christmas, schedule's totally gone, homeschool's barely happening, we're traveling, there's this, there's that. And then I realized that our kids were going haywire, and it kind of shocked me, experiencing it firsthand. I was like, it's not that they're home from school because they never went, to a school somewhere else. It's just the break in routine, and it was chaotic. And so it was so good for us to get back into our normal routine. And there's that adjustment period, sure. But that was wild to me, that really actually made a difference. Getting back into our normal routine, same kids, same house every day, right? But just back into that routine made the day more smooth because they got a little wild. And so that surprised me. So I think striving for some routine in your day can be very helpful. The next one is just an idea to record memories. Maybe start a 1-line-a-day journal where you write literally 1 line about your day. Maybe one kid did something silly or funny that day, so at the end of the day you remember it and you write it down. Or you just have a journal or an empty notebook that is for funny things that your kids say or do. And so just having that mindset that, oh, I have this journal and I like to record the funny things that they do, so I'm now looking out for the cute and fun things that my kids do. Maybe can help us to enjoy their sweet and funny personalities a little bit more instead of sometimes when they aggravate us. Might be a fun idea to be looking out for those things and enjoying the fun and silly things that our kids do and say. Some of you may have more full journals of funny things that your kids say than others. The next one I have is to say yes sometimes. I don't know if I'm the only mom that feels like I'm just a no mom and that I always say no. Okay, thank you. I'm not the only one that feels that way. I feel like that's all we do all day long, right? I say no to this, no to that, do this, do that. So I think it is helpful if sometimes for small things we say yes. If your kid asks for a lollipop after lunch, maybe sometimes we say yes, right? Or a bigger thing, like when my kid wants to bake cookies, that takes a little more effort because baking cookies with small children is kind of a lot. So sometimes I don't have anything else to do in that day and my bandwidth is a little bit more open, so I can say yes to making cookies with my kids, right? So these can be like small things, but just trying to remember that oftentimes if we do say yes to something that we can do, maybe we don't want to do it, but we can do it, that it could lead to a fun time of connection and enjoying an activity with your kids. So sometimes we can say yes, I think. The next one I have, number 8, is to wake up early. This one is a little specific to me, so this is kind of in the category of like, find what works for you and do it, okay? This one is helpful for me. When I say wake up early, in certain stages, that means way earlier than my kids, but in other stages, it literally means 15 minutes before my kids come out of their room. If I have 15 minutes to kind of wake myself up, maybe start drinking my coffee, kind of just be alive for a minute, right? Before the kids come booming out of their rooms, my heart posture to enjoy them for the day is already so much better than if I'm like groggily getting up at the same time as them. So ideally, this would be a longer period of time, and in some stages of parenting, I do this and I get up way earlier and I have quiet time in the mornings, and it's wonderful and great. But at other stages, just making the goal of getting up 15 minutes before them is very, very helpful for me. The next one is to enjoy the little moments. This is a super simple one, but I think in our busyness and in the craziness of the day, we forget to do. Just maybe if you're hugging your kid or tucking them in, hug them a little longer. If you're rocking your baby to sleep before you put her in the crib, just hold her for a couple more minutes longer and stare at her face and enjoy the moments before they are not little anymore, right? So this is a very short time, and maybe taking those quick moments, 1 or 2 minutes of just enjoying our time with them, I think can help us appreciate the time that we have instead of just rushing through all the things that we have to do, because I know there's lots of things that we have to do. The next one is to schedule a quiet time during the day. And again, this is one that works for our family and for me. May not work for you, or you can take it and tweak it to how you like it. But we have 1 hour each day when everybody in our house is either napping or resting or reading. And that 1 hour is very important to me because that is the time that I have to do my quiet time, to read the Bible, to pray, most likely take a short nap, at least be kind of sitting horizontal with my feet up for a few minutes. And it truly helps the rest of my afternoon because when they come out after that 1 hour, I am refreshed spiritually and physically. And I know that the rest of the afternoon, I'm a little bit more able to enjoy the times that we have because I had that time to reset my heart and rest my body a little bit. I also think it is really helpful for the kids. They are together all day long, right? My kids are literally with each other all day, every single day. And so when they're in their separate rooms for an hour, the youngest 2 are usually napping during that time. The oldest is reading or just resting in bed. And I can see when they come out after that hour that they are refreshed a little bit, okay? And I think it helps them and their moods kind of decompress a little bit. It helps me. So this is one that is hugely important. Sometimes it doesn't happen. Life happens, the day happens. So it is not my excuse, well, I didn't get my quiet time today, so I don't have to enjoy my kids this afternoon. That's not an excuse we can use, right? But if we can build it in to our routine and make it something, the kids know what happens, so I never get any, maybe a little pushback sometimes. But I typically don't get any pushback because they just know this is happening and they know it's part of the schedule. So that is a super helpful one for me and my enjoyment of our kids because I have that time in the middle of the day to rest my heart and my mind and my feet, and it's very helpful. We'll see how that goes as we head into newborn land again, and schedules will all be out the window. So check in with me in a couple months, see how I'm doing. The next one is to change your tone. This one, 100%, I stole from somebody that I saw online, so I'm not taking credit for it. But I saw a mom online said that when her kids say, Mom, or yell for her, call for her, instead of saying, what? She changed and she started saying, yes, love, instead of what, right? And just in that change of the words that she used to answer when her kids called her mood changed, her kind of outlook changed, and she didn't sound annoyed or perturbed or bothered by her kids, but changing it to yes, love, changed her tone and her overall kind of demeanor towards her kids. And we don't want our kids thinking that we are just constantly annoyed with them or bothered by them, right? And so simply changing our tone can set a new tone of loving and kindness instead of sharpness or annoyance. And will show that we delight in our kids and we want to help them. And when they call us, we want to attend to their needs. So changing our tone, maybe find something else that works for you. Maybe saying yes, love is helpful. Maybe there's something else, but something that triggers a change in your tone and your demeanor to your kids, I think can be helpful. And then next one is to keep a godly perspective. God is outside of time, and his view of time is so much bigger than ours. And this time that we have with our children in our home can seem very long day to day, but truly it is very short. So keeping that perspective, I think, can help us to realize that each moment we have, while it can be hard or tiring, is actually a moment to enjoy. Because they will not be our small kids at home for very long. It's a very short period of time. So this time is crucial, and it's quick, and we need to enjoy it, the good and the bad times. So we're pretty far through the list. To be honest, our kids are not always enjoyable, I would say, right? Are there times when your children are not necessarily being super enjoyable? Maybe it's when you're in your third trimester and your whole family has the flu and nothing seems enjoyable at the moment. That happened to me a few weeks ago. So our kids sometimes disobey, shock. They sometimes don't respond perfectly when we ask them to do something. Sometimes they don't take their naps. Sometimes I don't get my quiet time. Sometimes things go wrong in the house. So these next few things are more things that we can do when our kids are not being so enjoyable. One thing that we can do is to switch it up. Some days need a change. They need a reset. You have your daily routine and you pretty much stick to it all the time, but there are some days when you just got to kind of throw that schedule out of the window, right? Totally contradicting what I said earlier, right? And if we have the flexibility, sometimes changing that routine can be helpful. Maybe we need to go on a walk. Maybe we need to go to the park. Maybe we need to get in the car, and literally getting a pickup order from Target can be a good kind of change in the afternoon to just stop where we're at. If we're kind of on a trajectory where the day is really tough, changing what you're doing can be very helpful. Sometimes I put my kids to work, and sometimes magically that really helps. If they have all of this energy, I'll make them do a chore, and they just needed something to channel that energy into, and so sometimes that actually helps. So maybe put them to work, something that they might not always get to do or do for their chores regularly. Changing the routine a little bit sometimes can be helpful when the day is not going exactly how you planned it. The next one is a hard one. To enjoy the opportunities to correct their behavior. We have many opportunities as moms to correct our kids' behavior, right? It is not necessarily enjoyable to discipline or to correct your child when they're being disobedient. This is not a fun thing, but it is very important. And I think that if we change our mindset to view each moment of disobedience as an opportunity to change our child for the better, then it can help our overall outlook and our perspective in these harder moments, right? So we can enjoy the opportunity to correct their behavior, knowing that we're obeying God's command to teach and train our kids. God, in his good design, gave you your kids, gave them you to teach and to train them. And because of our diligent training as moms in these hard moments, our child will better obey us. If we're diligent to do this, our child will better obey us. Our child will respect authority. Our child will understand rules and boundaries. They will be a productive member of a household and then someday of society. They will be a more understanding brother or sister or child or spouse someday. And the list of benefits goes on and on and on. But knowing that we have to do this is hard, but doing it with this perspective that it is a good thing maybe can make us enjoy it more when we do have to do it. Not saying that you're like throwing a party that you have to discipline your kid, but having that perspective shift makes a difference, I think. The next one is to pray for them. Excuse me. When we are praying for our kids, we are actively demonstrating our love for them. Thank God for your kids. Thank God for specific traits that each of your children has. Pray for their salvation. Pray for their obedience, that they would obey you and that your days would go smoother. Pray that you would enjoy your kids. When we are praying for our kids, we're pouring out our hearts in thankfulness, and we're giving our concerns and our prayers to the one who hears us and the one who can help us. And it surely softens our hearts and makes us slow down and think about our kids and how much we love them. So there are so many reasons to pray for your kids and to pray in general, of course, but I think this is one great kind of side benefit and thing that we get, that when we are praying for our kids, we are thinking about how much we care for them and bringing the request to God because we care for them and love them so much. So this can help soften our hearts and help us to enjoy our kids. The next one is do not complain. Philippians 2:14 says, do all things without grumbling or disputing. Grumbling means complaining. My kids have this verse memorized, and therefore I have this verse memorized. And so there are many times when complaining wants to be in my heart or in my head, and then I hear myself saying, do all things without complaining. And it kind of gets me. In a good way, it's hard, right? So complaining, and this is whether you express your complaints out loud or if they just stay in your heart and your mind. Silent complaining is not helpful. If we are constantly complaining, then we are not having a thankful heart. We are not thanking God for these blessings that he's given us, and we are not enjoying our children. So this one is a hard one to do. It takes practice. It takes time. It takes replacing those thoughts with other thoughts so that you can fight off the complaining thoughts. But first step is a good one. Memorize Philippians 2:14. Do all things without grumbling or disputing. And then the last one I have is to pray for God's help. Pray for yourself that the Lord will help you to enjoy the opportunities to serve your children and to give of yourself and to teach them each day, because we surely need God's help. Jesus did all of these things for us out of love when he gave his life for us sinners. Hebrews 12:2 says that Jesus, for the joy that was set before him, endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. For the joy that was set before him. Even facing the awful and gruesome death on a cross, Jesus did it for the joy that was set before him, and so that we could be offered a way of salvation from sin and death, because we cannot attain that on our own without Jesus. So although it is hard each day to do these things for our children, and it often feels like we are so drained, we can ask God to change our perspective, to give us that same joy that was set before him. And with the Lord's help, we can do these things and enjoy our kids and enjoy them even more and more each day. So hopefully this is a helpful list. Feel free to come up with more ideas, share them with me, because we all need more ideas, right, of how to enjoy our kids. But I truly hope that this has blessed you and will help you to enjoy your kids from here on out even more. Thank you.